History has shown us that sometimes the impossible happens. Mikhail Gorbachev went from leading the Soviet Union
Тем, кто насмерть стал против фашизма, победил в самой кровавой войне, отстоял независимость,
to becoming the face of a North American multinational company.
За Горбачева! За Горбачева! За Горбачева! За Горбачева!
Sometimes nothing brings people together like a nice hot pizza from Pizza Hut.
So, will we ever see something like this in North Korea? Well, listen up. North Korea is a very, very poor country. The available estimates state that their per capita production value is 50 times smaller than that of South Korea. Less than 1,000 kilometers of their roads are paved. The average life expectancy is the lowest in the entire region, and despite having received humanitarian aid for more than 22 years, there's still poverty all over the country. But that is not even the worst of it. The worst is a total lack of respect for human rights. The North Koreans live under an ironclad dictatorship in a police state where political prisoners amount to tens and tens of thousands. In fact, according to the United Nations, there could be between 80 and 120,000 political prisoners in re-education camps. In North Korea, the state controls everything. But hold on just a moment, because in recent years, an important change seems to have occurred in the country. A change that has a lot to do with money, with commerce, and with the market. You see, theoretically, North Korea is the last large country, the last large state with a communist ideology. Here, practically everything is directed, organized, manufactured, and provided for by the state, including housing, health, education, food, employment, etc. But this is all in theory, and the truth is very different. You see, the state has a great deal of limitations. Basically, it's becoming less and less able to do stuff. Allow me to explain. Many of the state's factories and farms' productivity levels are absolutely on the floor. And additionally, in many cases, as a result of very old machinery, backwards production methods, international sanctions, and even electrical supply problems, for a great part of their time, production centers, they aren't even operative. Due to all of this, a new private economy has gained strength in recent years, from which more and more North Koreans now depend in order to survive and improve their living standards. Now, hold on just a second, because a private sector in North Korea with markets and with capitalism, it sounds pretty bizarre, but you absolutely heard right. And listen to this.
The new North Korean market.
Dear viewer, when Kim Jong-un was officially declared supreme leader, that is the absolute dictator of North Korea, on December 28, 2011, many analysts thought that things could change in the country. At the end of the day, this was a generational change that was bringing a 28-year-old into power, a 28-year-old who'd studied abroad in Switzerland. However, it soon became clear that some things weren't going to change. North Korea's new leader, Kim Jong-un, has turned out to be just as terrible as his father was. The purges, the inhuman punishments, the rampant persecution, the leader-centered cult, and in short, the complete control of citizens' lives have continued being this regime's main characteristics.
It's like a religion. From birth, you learn about the Kim family, learn that they are gods, that you must be absolutely obedient to the Kim family. The elites are treated nicely, and because of that, they make sure that the system stays stable. But for everyone else, it's a reign of terror. A doctor who worked at a hospital in Haesan, North Korea, and now works as a doctor at a hospital in South Korea.
However, dear viewer, since Kim Jong-un came to power, something surprising has happened. Dozens of markets where North Koreans trade privately have opened throughout the country. A new class of merchants and entrepreneurs is growing in North Korea. In fact, according to the Korea Institute for National Unification, around 1 million people work directly in these markets, which have already become one of the main sources of wealth in the country. Now, you might be wondering right now, but Simon, hold on a second, how did those markets come about? Well, let me tell you first that they don't have the most glamorous or happiest of beginnings. You see, it all started in the 1990s, when famine caused by government mistakes, lack of resources, weather conditions, and the collapse of the Soviet Union wreaked absolute havoc in the country. Estimates state that between 1 to 2 million people died of starvation. Well, right at the time when North Koreans were struggling to survive, the first markets arose, places where people could exchange anything they could to get resources with which they could buy food.
We realized that if we did nothing, we would die of hunger, so we started to trade. Zhuyang.
Suddenly, dozens and dozens of markets appeared throughout the country, saving thousands and thousands of lives. That's precisely why the regime didn't persecute this type of private activity, as you might expect. Kim Jong-il, the current leader's father, let's just say that sometimes he tolerated these markets and sometimes he decided to repress them. But since Kim Jong-un came to power, the number of private markets has multiplied, and satellite images show that they don't stop growing. Now the government authorizes many of these markets in exchange for renting out spaces to the merchants. Yep, that's right, the Pyongyang government is taking advantage of this new private economy. But well, how much? Well, according to the Korea Institute for National Unification's calculations, they get more than 220,000 American dollars per day. So precisely for this reason, recently the government isn't only promoting these markets, but is also granting visas to many Chinese entrepreneurs and traders to further stimulate this economic activity. But, dear viewer, it does not end there, because, well, listen to this. It isn't only the activity of regulated markets that's growing, it's also that of the unofficial markets. That is, those that don't have the authorities' official approval, the black market. See, this all works in the following way. In an economic parallel to the public sector, people make everything they can: shoes, sweets, clothes, and naturally they try to sell these products in the market and get money. And the currencies they're hoping for are probably yen or even American dollars. But even so, it's estimated that 80% of the products sold in North Korean markets come from China. In other words, illegal trade which happens behind the government's back also crosses the border, and it's crossing the border in huge and ever-growing volumes. By the way, many of these unofficial markets are becoming a window to the outside world for many North Koreans. Because, dear viewer, in these places you can even buy a USB stick full of foreign movies and shows, including Hollywood productions.
When we saw foreign programming, we had to close all the doors and curtains and pretend that there was nobody home. Dan B. Kim.
So you might now be wondering, well, contraband crossing borders? Why aren't guards and the security services doing something about this? Why are they tolerating this illegal trade? Well, basically for two reasons. The first is that in Pyongyang there doesn't seem to be much pressure to combat these markets, and we're going to see why in a moment. And second, because the soldiers and border guards are also a part of the business, and sometimes they even lend a hand. That's right, a common method of payment, according to many of the traders who now live outside of North Korea, is to deliver packs of cigarettes stuffed with money to the police and soldiers. Well, the fact is that these international merchants buy products in the North Korean authorized markets, or the black market, and then transfer them to China, sell them, and with that money they buy Chinese products and take them back to North Korea to sell. It's a process as old as trade itself. And here, within this world of international trade, is where a new class is emerging. Individuals who usually have power or influence or dealings with high officials and who are making serious money. And by the way, they're driving a lot of activities that have nothing to do with the old socialist model within Pyongyang itself.
The salary for doctors was about 3,500 won a month. That was less than it cost to buy 1 kilogram of rice. So of course, being a doctor was not my main job. My main job was smuggling at night. I would send herbal medicine from North Korea into China, and with the money, I would import home appliances back into North Korea. Rice cookers, Notels, LCD monitors, that kind of thing. A doctor who worked at a hospital in Haisan, North Korea.
Here's an anecdote. Today, for example, you can buy Coca-Cola in the streets of Pyongyang, and according to the South Korean intelligence service, at least 40% of all North Koreans participate in private activities and businesses in some way. That might be surprising to you, but there's still more here. But before we get into all of that, here's an important note. We're talking about a very incipient process. In North Korea, the government still controls virtually everything. If these black markets are growing, it's because they're being allowed to grow. This is likely because they're more efficient, they work better, they give the government money, and they allow North Koreans to find a way to improve their living standards. Something very similar happened in the Soviet Union and in Vietnam and of course in China. So now let's have a look at what else is happening.
Reforms made in China?
This new class of merchants and entrepreneurs that is emerging has a name among North Koreans, the Donju. And as you can imagine, many of them, especially those who really make money, are people who belong to the Communist Party and are well connected in the government. That's to say they are a part of the elite, which they take advantage of not only to get special treatment from the security forces, but also to reach advantageous agreements with public companies. There are clear suspicions that many irregular exports are manufactured by public companies, but the benefits go to these elite members. However, this new economic approach isn't something that bothers the Pyongyang government. In fact, everything indicates that the North Korean government wants to reproduce the Chinese model in some way. That is, to seek foreign investment that will allow them to grow and develop, but without losing political control. See, since Kim Jong-un came to power, his government has granted more freedom to public companies so that they can organize as they wish and find their own suppliers and customers. It has also promoted, as we've seen, private markets. They turn a blind eye to the black market, and families and collective farms now have individual plots assigned to them whose harvest, once they meet the state quota, can be used as they wish. They can, of course, then sell it in the private market. North Korea has even started talking about special economic zones. But I must stress here that this is all a very new process. This doesn't mean that a radical change is going to happen in the short term, but due to the official system's incapacity, the North Koreans are developing an alternative to improve their standard of living. And even though, unfortunately, North Korea is still the totalitarian and poor country that it was before Kim Jong-un's arrival, you can't deny that this new kind of parallel economy's growth is somewhat surprising. But now it's your turn. Do you think that North Korea will try to follow the Chinese model? Well, leave your answer in the comments below as well as in this survey, and I really hope you enjoyed that video, and please do hit that like button if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for brand new videos. Also, don't forget to check out our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. They provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine, and as always, thank you for watching.
За Горбачева! За Горбачева! За Горбачева! За Горбачева!
Sometimes nothing brings people together like a nice hot pizza from Pizza Hut.